I mean, he is a guy that, like you mentioned, is a hard ass. He's a guy who wants it his way as far as coaching. They have their guys in place, Kay. It's no longer, well, this is the team you inherited. Now it's, okay, these are your guys, and the draft picks are going to be your guys because 6 wins is not going to cut it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL world is reacting to Raiders owner Mark Davis's comments about the general manager Dave Ziegler, about the front office, and it seems like it's quite possible that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler could be on the hot seat, and people who are employed by other teams, people who work for the front office of other teams were absolutely shocked by Mark Davis's comments, calling him clueless, saying that he did a low blow. We're going to break down everything he said, and we're going to talk about the reality that these guys could be on the hot seat. How could they prevent themselves from being on the hot seat? How much time do they have? And what exactly is a contract situation? What exactly may happen if they regress in 2023? By the way, guys, I've been hibernating. I've been relaxing, waiting for the season, waiting for the NFL draft. But if you want me to upload more content, I don't upload every day, but if you want me to, let me know by subscribing to this channel
for more Raiders content.
All right, so about 12 days ago, you had Vic Tafur of The Athletic get an interview with Mark Davis. I believe him and Sean Reed had an interview with Mark Davis, and he mainly talked about general manager Dave Ziegler. And we briefly mentioned these comments, but we're kind of like, all right, whatever. We want to be positive. You know, we don't want to just totally crap on McDaniels and Dave Ziegler all the time. Trust me, guys, I'm actually a really nice guy, and I don't always want to crap on these people. But these comments are having more of an effect in the NFL world, and you have Hondo Carpenter of Sports Illustrated now showing different NFL teams, different people reacting to Mark Davis's comments. So what did Mark Davis exactly say? Well, he was asked about general manager Dave Ziegler. So what he said was, Dave is young and has never been in this position before. It takes time to learn all the tricks of the trade. I think the people he confides in might not be giving him the full picture because it's so damn competitive. These were some odd comments, and this was coupled with some other comments that Mark Davis made in this interview. And this is pretty crazy because Mark Davis is like the most honest I've ever seen him, like in a long time. It's actually pretty insane. He says that they overestimated what the roster was like, and saying that he personally felt that they were going to take a year to really understand what they were working with and everything like that, and then they would make decisions in the future. So he's saying that on the outside, they really did not know what was going on, what they were working with in terms of the roster, and then said that, hey, they decided on hiring Jimmy Garoppolo as our quarterback, and that's how they want to go into this season, specifying, hey, this is what they want to do. I'm Mark Davis, I'm the owner. This is what these two guys want to do. And then he goes out of his way and says, up to Dave Ziegler, really, who is the general manager, now to start putting a roster together and really putting this team together for the future. And this is the big kicker. And this is where I feel like Mark Davis is separating himself from Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. He's trying to create a line in the sand, letting the fans know, hey, I'm Mark Davis, the owner over here. These are the guys that I hired. And here's what he's saying. For me, I hire people. One thing I know is what I don't know. I hire people that do know things. I let them do their job. I give them vision and goals and let the results speak for themselves. So he's saying, hey, I hire the guys. I'm not a part of all the decision makings. They want to roll with Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback. That's what they want to do. I'm just the guy writing the checks. And so when you look at all these comments together, talking about how he's just hiring people to do the job, it's really up to Dave Ziegler to build the roster because he's the GM. And then talking about how he's young, he's never done this before, and then criticizing the people around him who he confides in, the people close to him, saying that they might not be giving him the full picture. Who are these people? I don't know. I think Josh McDaniels is pretty close to Dave Ziegler. Maybe he could be one of those people, but definitely in criticism coming from Mark Davis. And this made other people in the NFL alarmed. Hondo Carpenter of Sports Illustrated went around and talked to people around the NFL, seeing what they thought about this comment that Mark Davis made at the owners meeting. And he talked to people of different teams, and he had people who work for different teams, and he had 4 different teams respond here. And it's pretty crazy what they said. One of them said, hey, I showed that to our owner. So they showed this to another NFL owner. That was a low blow. Way to throw your new GM under the bus. I don't think he meant it that way, but with an angry fan base, you just can't say that. And look, we know on this channel, look, if we're talking about an angry fan base and you're talking about YouTube, obviously WiFiWillie and a lot of us who are watching this, this past season, this disaster, yes, we're heated. We're heated, and even though the fans are heated, what happened last year? Well, you get thrown out. You get kicked out by allegedly Mark Davis because you're heated about the situation, you're heated about the season. So the fact that Mark Davis, is making these comments that are critical of Dave Ziegler while fans are pissed off, getting thrown out at the final games of the season, upset about the fact that this free agency we just had is lackluster to say the least, and in some way indicates a rebuild. And by the way, Mark Davis was asked about the rebuild. We're going to go into some details about what exactly he said, read between the lines of what this could possibly mean. But hey, a low blow, looking like clear criticism of Dave Ziegler. Team number 2 said Dave would never admit this, but that had to hurt. No way Mark meant it that way, but it sure came off as bad. And so these guys work for other teams. They work in the NFL. They're going to say, oh, Mark didn't mean it that way. Mark's a great guy, blah, blah. But they're still pointing out, it was a bad look, had to hurt Dave Ziegler, had to offend him. Another team called him clueless, called Mark Davis clueless for making that type of comment while fans are pissed off. And then he had team number 4, somebody said, ouch. What owner would do that to his guy when he still works for him? That's BS. So, hey, people just think, whether or not some people believe that Mark Davis is in or out on Dave Ziegler, people at least believe it was a bad look for Mark Davis. I personally think Mark Davis, I think he's a emotional guy. I think he's a relatable guy. And, I've been critical of Mark, but he does wear his heart on his sleeve. And I feel like for the most part, he is pretty transparent. Now that could be detrimental in certain ways where he can kind of let people know exactly what he's thinking, but I think he's concerned. I think he really believed the Raiders are going to have a shot to win and win quickly, and it's not happening. It's not happening, and it looks to be somewhat of a retool. Now, this is another thing that I thought was very interesting because Mark Davis, what do we know the most about Mark Davis? Well, he loves Tom Brady. I mean, he's a simp for Tom Brady, and Tom Brady has recently bought a piece of the Las Vegas Aces. He's now a minority owner. Davis loves Brady. He gets googly eyes when he sees him, right? And obviously, we know he wanted him to be the quarterback in 2020. Per Dana White, John Gruden shut it down. Well, another team official who works for another team, this isn't somebody who works for the Raiders, according to Hondo Carpenter, said this team got stunned when Tom Brady retired. Now, I think the Raiders will have an excellent draft with Ziegler and McDaniels, but don't pretend Mark Davis's fingerprints weren't all over the Derek Carr mess and the hunt for Tom Brady. And that's huge. Because to me, Mark Davis, he lets the staff do what they want, right? He lets them make their decisions. But I really do believe part of the reason why he was into the Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler thing is because he knows they had a relationship with Tom Brady. He knew that Tom Brady was on the outs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, flirted with the Miami Dolphins as well. And look, all the rumors were pointing to Tom Brady going to the Raiders this past offseason. Think about where we were in February when we knew the Raiders are moving on with Derek Carr. We were seeing all the stars align. You even had people like Albert Breer say the Raiders are 100% interested in Tom Brady. You had Hondo Carpenter, who we were just referencing his article. He was writing pieces back then saying, if Tom Brady wants the job, it's his job. It was basically up to Tom Brady. And once that fell through, Aaron Rodgers seemed like it was never really an option, something that, probably McDaniels was never really interested in, even though Devontae was definitely interested in that. And Jimmy Garoppolo, signing him immediately when the free agent tampering period opened, to me, that signaled desperation. It signaled that we were hoping to have something in place after we moved on from Derek Carr. We did not. So we need to make a move. We need to sign a guy who, look, I think Jimmy G's a nice guy. He gets along with players. He's a competitive guy. He's had to battle through injuries. He's tough. But let's not act like Jimmy Garoppolo is the reason why the Niners win all those games. He's not. He's an average quarterback, and he's a competent quarterback, but that's it. That's it. So you're not necessarily signing Jimmy Garoppolo because, you think he's going to make your whole entire team better. And you're not also signing Jimmy Garoppolo because you're also worried that other teams might sign him. Think about Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, what other team did they say was interested in Jimmy Garoppolo when the tampering period opened? Now, I remember. It was the Jets, and it was also the Houston Texans. Well, the Jets are clearly always been all in on Aaron Rodgers, and they're still trying to make that happen. And the Houston Texans, well, they have the number 2 overall pick in the draft. So even if they did grab Jimmy Garoppolo, he's definitely not starting. They're definitely going to have their number 2 overall pick, whether that be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, start as soon as possible. So in my opinion, nobody was really interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's why the Raiders were able to grab him so easily. And I feel like this is true that it was a backup plan now that Tom Brady was not available. So he's saying, is it a rebuild now? This is Mark Davis speaking. Is it a rebuild now? I suppose if you're getting a new quarterback, obviously, that's a big positional change. And the fact is we still have holes on the defense we need to fill. So Mark Davis, dude, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for the Raiders, but like, You just told your fan base it's a rebuild. I mean, I don't know if people like realize that. You just told your fan base when asked, is it a rebuild now? You said, I suppose. Now, here's the thing. Now, we have Jimmy Garoppolo as quarterback. Now, if you're excited about Jimmy Garoppolo, if you think that you can be competitive now because he has experience with McDaniels' scheme, you're not going to say, I suppose it's a rebuild. Like if the Raiders grabbed Aaron Rodgers, would Mark Davis be saying, I suppose it's a rebuild since we're getting Aaron Rodgers, a new quarterback? Are we closer than we were last year? I don't know at this point. Mark Davis is saying he does not know if the team that he owns, that he signs all the checks for, he does not know if they are better than last year after only winning 6 games last year. He still has to figure that out. Could Mark Davis move on from this and say, look, I don't like this. You guys took a playoff team. You made it worse. And just like your boy Q said on the Kay Adams show from the beginning of this video, this is McDaniels and Ziegler's team. We keep blaming Gruden for McDaniels' failure. Oh, Gruden didn't draft well, blah, blah. We keep talking about all of Gruden's poor draft picks in the first round. And yes, they were poor, but we've moved on from these players already. We've already had 2 off seasons of Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. This is going to be the second draft. It's not our fault that they decided to trade their first and second round pick last year for Devontae Adams, even though that might have not been a good move if you're not exactly competing for a championship immediately. It kind of doesn't make sense to pay for the most expensive wide receiver in the entire NFL if you're not competing for a championship. So look, they got a lot of decisions to make, but they are, in my opinion, out of excuses. And I think Mark Davis is finally saying, hey, I hire people, I sign the checks, they make the decisions. And if it doesn't work out, I have to hire new people. Year 2, it's coming. This is going to be the biggest draft in Dave Ziegler in his professional career. I mean, this is a brand new job for him as a general manager. This is Josh McDaniels' second shot as a head coach in the NFL. He already failed in Denver as a head coach. Great offensive coordinator, bad head coach. This is a huge draft for him. If they both fail, can we really see them getting an opportunity to run a franchise in the NFL within the next 10 years? I don't think so. You've already wrecked one franchise. You might wreck another. Well, I don't think another person's going to think 3 times the charm. I don't think that's going to happen, right? So just for them personally, this is a huge draft. And for the Raiders, I mean, if the Raiders and Ziegler and McDaniels don't work out, well, this is horrible for the Raiders because then it is a rebuild. Then it is for sure another rebuild. A new coach, new GM. That's what that means. A new rebuild. Going to have to boot out all these Patriot players that we sign if you get a new head coach. It's exactly what's going to have to happen. Now, and look, we know that during the interview with general manager Dave Ziegler, Mark Davis discovered that Josh McDaniels is available as a head coach. So they are a package deal. It does seem like they're a package deal. I do not see the Raiders moving on from one of them and not moving on from the other, but it does seem like Mark Davis primarily hired Dave Ziegler because he wanted Josh McDaniels and I think wanted Tom Brady. Either way, let me know what you think is going to happen, man. If you want more content from me, please hit that subscribe button. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.